Hey guys, my name is Chef Michael Wray and welcome to my first video on YouTube. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make one of my all-time favorite sauces. It's a white wine cream sauce and it's something that you can make at home. It's very easy to make, has a great, fine dining flavor to it, and I'm going to show you how to put it together with a little bit of chicken, asparagus, and arugula and make a great meal for you to make for your family at home. For the white wine sauce, we're going to make it first. Let me go over some of the ingredients that we're going to use, you guys. It's really easy to do. I'm going to be using 5 shallots. It's going to look like a lot. Don't be afraid of the shallots. We're going to be pureeing everything up into the sauce, but the flavor that it adds is spot on. The garlic we're going to be mincing up. I'm going to be using a half a clove of garlic, or half of one of these of garlic. For the herbs, we're going to use about a teaspoon of fresh thyme and 4 bay leaves, pint of cream, and a half a bottle of wine, half a carton of veg stock. We're going to start the cooking process by sweating, which basically means that we're going to cook the onions really low and start bringing out some of the harsh flavor of the onion and sort of leaving behind that sweet goodness of the onion. When it comes to cutting the vegetables for this sauce, we're going to be blending it up, so there's no need to do extremely perfect matching juliennes, but it is a good opportunity for you to practice cutting some of these different cuts. How I'm going to do this for these shallots is I'm just going to take the top and the bottom off like this, split it in half, grab some of the outside onion layer, peel it back, there we go. And just do this to all 5 shallots. I can't tell you, to be honest with you, what the biggest difference between this and a red onion is besides the size. And there's a lot of cuts we do as chefs where the actual size of the shallot makes it a lot easier to perform a brunoise or the other cuts that we need to do for a shallot in garnishing and finishing in the sauce. In case you're wondering, the brunoises are the very, very, very small, perfectly square diced cuts. Here's how we're going to cut up the shallots, you guys. Check it out. It's so easy. I prefer to go crossways for these rough, quick chops, but you can also practice doing julienne. You can also practice doing small dice or brunoises. So, rough chop. I'm not looking for anything fancy here, you guys. And it's important that you start this by sweating out the onions instead of trying to caramelize them or cook them hard. And so, in order to do that, we need to start in a cold pan. I have over here. I'm going to go to a medium heat. Add my olive oil. I love to use the caps for olive oil. When you're at home or cooking or whatever, it makes the best sort of measuring tool, I think. I'm going to go with 3 capfuls. We don't want to use too much oil in this process of it because it'll actually stay around and then you're going to have to take it off the top of your sauce at the end anyway. So I go with 3 cups of olive oil. I'm going to add my shallots. There shouldn't be a sizzle or anything when you put them in there, but we're going to bring the temperature up slowly and it's going to help bring the astringent flavor of the shallots and cook it out of there. This will actually reduce. You're going to cook these onions until they're like half the size that they are. So it looks like a lot now, but even now they're going to be cooked down and blended into the sauce, so you won't even know they're there. While these are sweating, I'm going to peel off some of my garlic. Again, this sauce is being pureed. No need to have to put too much effort into making your garlic all the same size. Start with a half a clove. Just going to take my knife and smash them. It just seems to be the fastest way to peel garlic for me. Once they're smashed, you can just remove the peel. I'm actually listening to the sound of the shallots as they come up to temperature. You can kind of start to hear them. Again, you're not trying to get any color on the shallots as you're doing this. And we're going to sweat them until they start to become translucent. I actually like to remove the ends off of these, of the garlic. I'm going to get a quick rough chop on my smashed garlic. add these to my shallots. 2 pinches of salt. This will help the onions and the garlic to start to cook down, start releasing their wonderful juices. Alright, my onions are starting to get a little limp, as you can see, and they're actually starting to become a little translucent. I'm still going to cook this out for another few minutes. I'm starting to get a little color on the side of the pan. It's okay, I'm going to actually turn my heat down just a little bit. As you can see, as we're cooking this, the amount of onions looks like it's getting to be less and less. You know, like any of these vegetables, they're made up of a huge amount of just water. So as we add a little salt and heat to them, they'll release all those juices into what we're making here. And that's how we're going to be trying to harvest a lot of the flavor from the shallot. And you can smell, as I'm cooking here, the fumes went from being like very strong in my eyes and my nose, and it starts to like mellow off, and that's part of the cooking process, is what helps kills that really strong onion flavor that so many people are scared of. So at this point here, my shallots and my garlic are looking really good. We've got a nice sweat going on over here. So I'm going to add a half a bottle of wine to this. This we're going to bring up to a boil. I'm going to turn my heat up to medium high. We're going to let this start to reduce by a quarter. If we go too fast with the veg stock and the cream, there's a good chance you might break the cream. So we need to start by getting this the wine going in order to get any kind of these acids that are in here. When we cook with that, it actually it brings the acidity level down a little bit and will help basically not break your sauce. Just a little bit more for flavor. I'm going to add some of my thyme and my bay leaves to the mix. Again, I'm not looking for a super perfect pulled herbs here. I like to try to use fresh herbs whenever possible. This is fresh thyme. Just kind of pull down the bottom and the top just like that. I like to go against the grain and then pull down and then go up the grain from the top. Thyme, oregano, rosemary. These are all herbs that you usually want to start them in the beginning of your cooking process. Some of the fresher herbs like basil, parsley, cilantros, those are all herbs that you always want to finish your dish with. For this, I'm looking for about somewhere between a teaspoon and 2 teaspoons worth of herbs. I'm going to chop these up really quick and just add them in here. Bay leaves. There's something about bay leaves and cream sauces that just go hand in hand. This is on a medium-high heat, and it's on a boil. This is actually reducing the wine. And so the reduction of the wine process is going to take anywhere between like 3 to 5 minutes. I'm not looking to fully reduce the wine. I'm just trying to get it started. And this sauce I'm showing you guys how to make today, you could add mushrooms to it. I mean, you could add any ingredient you want to this when we go to puree up and turn it into that sauce. If you want like a mushroom white wine sauce, boom. All you gotta do is add your dried mushrooms right before, and we'll throw it in the blender, you puree it up, perfect. I mean, this is such an easy sauce. Like, this is something that I whip out all the time. Wherever I'm working, I need to make a special, I need to make something, you know, I need to make something special for one of the customers that are coming in that night. This is definitely one of the sauces I'll turn to. And having the white wine and the cream, and the balance of the herbs, it just gives it this like a very rich, you know, very rewarding flavor. You know, it's just a white cream sauce, and you go to taste it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that is fine dining in a spoon right there. And as you guys can see, this is very inexpensive to make. I think I paid $6 for the wine, $4 for the cream, $3 for the veg stock. All right. So at this point, I'm going to add my veg stock to this. 12 ounces of veg stock. Add this. Bring back to a boil and continue to cook for another 3 to 4 minutes. With this white wine cream sauce I'm teaching you guys today, we're going to pair it up with some asparagus, a rotisserie chicken that we bought from the store, and some arugula greens. The first thing I'm going to want to do while my sauce is cooking is I'm going to actually grab my asparagus and peel it. So there's all kinds of different size asparagus that you find at the store. The very small pencil ones all the way up to the jumbo thick ones. Once you start getting around this size and a little bit bigger, here's on the bigger ends here, you need to peel them. And when we peel them, they just become so tender. They have an amazing color and amazing presentation look to them. Keep in mind while you're peeling your asparagus, I find that it works when you keep the asparagus flat on the cutting board and you run your peeler like this. One thing to remember is you do not need to push hard for this peel. So this is what we're going to do for each one of them. And we don't need to peel all the way up to here. We're looking mostly to get here and down. One of the problems when you push too hard when peeling asparagus is that you'll peel all the asparagus away. You won't be left with anything. The skin's a really thin layer and you don't want to get too deep on your peel. You can see there I peeled a little too close. That's what happens. I like to trim the asparagus after it's peeled. People tend to cut away too much of the good stuff, and so they'll just break at the very end where they need to. Alright, let me wipe down my station and let's go check out how this sauce is doing. Oh, that's looking good there. At this point I'm going to be adding my cream. So I'm going to add this quart of cream. Just a warning, you can't use milk and you cannot use half and half. I don't suggest using either for cooking unless the recipe specifically calls for milk and you're doing a bechamel or something. Besides that, any kind of reduction sauce, half and half, and milk do not work. And I actually prefer to use the heavy whipping cream. This stuff is very pasteurized and it holds up to cooking very well. And so we are going to bring this back to a boil. Whenever you're cooking with creams or milks or anything, you always need to remember to keep your eye on it. Once the boil comes up, it's really easy to froth over. By adding the wine and the veg stock, it actually makes it a little bit easier to cook without it boiling over. I'm adding a little bit of salt to it right now. With the veg stock and with the cream, as we reduce this, it's going to get saltier and saltier on its own. So you want to wait until after you've cooked to finish with the salt on it. I like just to add a little bit in the beginning. The reduction time on this is about 20 minutes, and I'll actually show you. You can actually see on the side of the pan as it comes down. We're going to try to reduce this by 1/3. You notice I didn't go all the way to the very top when I was peeling these. It's really more important towards the base and up. Once we get a little further up here, the asparagus will still stay nice and tender. What I'm going to do is line all these up. I'm going to cut this into 2 pieces. The first cut I always like to do with asparagus is the nice presentation side and then the rear end. So for these, I'm going to cut them in half on the bias all at once. You can watch me. So that'll be our first half. Second half. Depending on how big of a family you have, you might not want to get rid of these. You might want to keep them to feed everybody. For my purposes today, this is perfect. So we are going to set this up so it's going to cook on its own without a lot of supervision. But when you first start this sauce off, I need you to make sure you stand around this and wait for it to actually come up to a boil and then turn it down to a simmering heat. You don't want to walk away from this. And at this point, if you use too much oil, this is when a lot of that oil will come up from the sweating of the shallots and the garlic. All right, we're starting to bubble. So at this point, you can see the sauce is coming up to a boil. I'm going to reduce the heat down to a simmer. It's really important when doing sauces like this that you go slow and low, meaning that it's not a race to get it reduced, and you don't want to do it at the highest heat either. When working with cream or anything like that, when it's a harder heat, a fast boil, you've got a good chance of breaking your sauce. That's obviously something we don't want to do. So at this point, it has come up to a boil. The froth in the head was building up on there. I'm dropping the heat down to a simmer, and I'm going to let this reduce by 1/3 to 1/2. You do want to stir it every 5 minutes or whatnot, just to make sure you don't have anything sticking on the bottom. But at this heat, you guys shouldn't have to have too much to worry about as far as burning the bottom of your pan. You're not going to make it better than this. You know, this also helps you to make this meal really quick. You know, in all likelihood, you should be able to make this in 20 minutes. As your sauce is going, you peel your asparagus, get your chicken ready, boom. But one of my favorite techniques for these chicken is the first thing I do when I buy them is I bring it home is I'm going to clean the meat. I'm going to clean the meat off the carcass and then harvest the skin. It's the secret part of this meal, and it's the best part. So, first thing first I like to do when I do these chickens is I'm going to harvest all the skin off of this. Even if it's the slimy skin, whatever skin you can get off here, try to take this off in nice large chunks. Make sure it's laid out flat and not on top of each other. I also like to pop the wings on the plate that I'm going to be doing the crispy chicken skin on. I'm going to actually try to get all the skin, even from the bottom, because believe it or not, this is really the best part of the dish. Everybody loves crispy chicken skin. And in one of the few times that chefs like to admit that we use a microwave for any cooking, that is the only way to cook this skin is we're going to pop this in the microwave for a couple minutes. First things first is we're going to break off the leg and thigh. Take them, boom. You just kind of have to turn them. Comes right off the carcass. Look at that. So at this point, we're going to take some of the flesh off. One of the reasons I like to do this also is because I don't like to eat any of the gross, slimy parts and fat inside chicken. I like to have the opportunity to be able to go in there, pull all that gross stuff off. There's the chicken and thighs are there. Let's pull out the wishbone. The easiest way to do that is just with your finger. It's located right on the front of the breast. And then you just kind of pinch right here and pull back. Boom. We got our wonderful, beautiful wishbone. I'm going to throw that on the plate and cook that up too. Pull out the tender, which is located right underneath the breast. And what I like to do is kind of keep the dark meat on one side and the white meat on another. We're going to leave these in chunks because we're gonna sear these up in the pan really fast when we go to finish them. Both sides, like I said, it's like a brain lobe. There's two sides to it of the breast. So try to pull them away as big of a piece as you can get. Again, remove the tender. Chunk up the meat a little bit. See, that beautiful golden brown rotisserie chicken that we all love to eat, this just took me maybe 5 minutes, whereas doing something like this by home, the night of you're trying to cook something, it's just a lot of time and a lot of effort just to have something that's made for you very quickly. And like I said, $8 for a free-range chicken already cooked it's pretty fantastic with me. So we got our chicken here. I'm going to put this to the side to heat up right before service. I'm going to actually pop this in the microwave now. I'm going to pop it into the microwave for, let's start with 1 minute and 33 seconds. Go from there. That's basically going to get all crispy and fry it up all perfect in there. Our sauce here, as you can see, it's been reduced by half. We've got a little bit of body to it, and at this point we're going to be blending it up in the blender. Don't worry about taking out the bay leaves. Don't worry about taking out any of that stuff. We're just going to puree it all up all beautiful together in the blender. It's important to note the liquid that we're going to be blending is going to be hot, warm. One of the huge mistakes you can make is by putting that hot liquid into this, putting the lid on very tight, and hitting the puree button, because I guarantee that the lid's going to fly off and your liquid's going to fly everywhere. So the first thing I always do when I do a sauce in the blender the sauce that's actually hot like this, is I definitely always take this little thing out of the top of it. That allows the air pressure in here when you turn the blender on to shoot out there instead of pushing the lid and the liquid out. I'm going to pour our sauce right into here. I'm going to have to do this in 2 batches. Again, when working with hot sauces in a blender, never use more than half the bowl. If you do, you will spill. Not only will you spill, but you will spill molten hot sauce over everything. You should have another pot to transfer this into, because we're going to be doing this in 2 batches, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is our first batch of the sauce. As you can see, I've just poured in here. It's our cream and white wine reduction. I take a towel, put it on top. Second trick, please remember, is start off on the very lowest speed you can. I'm going to start off on 1 and then increase the speed up into high and let it blend for 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Transfer it back into a clean pot. So watch, here we go. So it started soft, it started slow, now I'm going to turn this up. If you're using a Vitamix or any of these variable speed blenders, it's so important that you turn the speed back to 1. Then transfer your sauce. Trust me on that. So as you can see, this is our beautiful sauce. I'm going to pour it over here. That's the clean pot. Now I'm going to transfer the rest. By that sound, I can smell our chicken skins getting good. I'm sorry, but besides the sauce, the chicken skin is my favorite part of this meal. All right, let's blend the last bit of this. So again, I turn my speed back down to low, because if you don't and turn this on, it's going to explode. Go into 1, on, increase speed. And as you can see when I pour it, there's no like chunks of bay leaves, there's no chunks of the herbs, or shallots, or garlic, mind you. It's all gone, and we have this beautiful smooth sauce. So we've got that good. That's actually dang good. Demarcation, so I'm going to actually put this back on the heat and cook it for like the next couple of minutes on a low heat. Let me grab another pot. This is going to be for our chicken. I'm going to start with 3 capfuls of olive oil. At the same time, I'm going to get our asparagus rolling. For this asparagus, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons, 2.5 tablespoons of butter. And to this, I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of water. We're going to bring this up to heat and melt in the butter and water together. Add a little bit of salt. This helps to keep the asparagus nice and green and keeps it from oxidizing. Ooh la la, that sauce is looking good. And this is going to be for the chicken. Let's go check the chicken skin. So this is definitely not done, and I can tell that by the color of it. It's all still pretty limp. You're not going to burn this in the microwave, but I like to do it in increments of 1.5 minutes. Usually takes about 3.5 to 4.5 minutes. All right, look at that. This is going to be our poaching liquor for the asparagus. We're going to add this. We're sort of blanching, poaching these in with the butter and with the water. The sauce I have on a low heat. I'm just kind of doing a reduction on it, but just slow while we're waiting for the other components of the dish to come together. All right, this is going to be for the chicken. Again, I have olive oil that I'm heating up. At this point, what I'm trying to do to the chicken is I'm just going to brown it a little bit. Put a little bit of color on the skin and give it a great little texture. So I'm going to add this to the hot oil. Sauce is bubbling away. Asparagus is looking good. See a little bit of color we're starting to get on there? That's all we're looking for. Don't have to get all crazy in the cooking here, but we do want to make sure we get everything has a nice little color to it. The asparagus should take about 3 to 5 minutes. The best way to check if it's done is to see if it's tender. I always grab the thickest piece and check that. Here we've got a nice slow roll on our sauce. Have our asparagus blanched. Coloring up the chicken. There's a good amount of salt in here. There's salt in here. There's usually salt on the chicken from when they cook it in the rotisserie. So at this point, there's no real reason to add salt to my chicken. I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper to it though. All right, so we can actually turn this chicken off and let it just chill there for a sec. You can see our sauce is really looking good right now. We've got all the onions and shallots and everything blended into it, and it actually has some body to it now. Our asparagus looks like it's close to getting done. At this point, I'm going to go check my chicken skin. So I'm checking the chicken. At this point, it's still just about 1.5 minutes from being off. So let me pop this back in here really quick. All right, we're going to be actually serving this with an arugula salad, and for the dressing, I'm just going to make a really quick broken lemon dressing. I reserved a few of the shallots. I'm going to take one of them up and go to a real small dice on it. Used about 1/2 shallot. I'm going to put all this into here. A good pinch of salt, another little pinch of salt, lemon. Whenever I juice my lemons, I like to go into a smaller container in order to pull the little seeds out before we throw it over there. We're looking to juice 1 lemon. All right, so I'm going to add my lemon juice without the seeds. Add some fresh thyme. Olive oil. And that's it. All right, that sounds like we need to go check our chicken. All right, now we're looking good here. A little bit of salt. So what I'm left right here with is this great crispy chicken skin. Might not seem ultra crisp right now, but that's only because it's really hot. How we're going to prepare this is I take it off onto your cutting board, and I need you to cut it into strips. Use a bigger knife. I'm actually going to pop this in there for about another minute, I think. Okay, so here's our asparagus. You can see it's got a nice color to it. It's fully cooked and we got a little sauteed. Basically, we cooked it till the water was gone and the fat was left, and then sauteed it up a little bit. Here's our greens. I'm going to add the dressing to this. Again, this is just a lemon, shallot, and herb dressing really fast. All right, let's get this all nice and mixed up. All right, let's make plates for two. All right, this is gonna be our garnish for our plate. These beautiful strips of just fried chicken skin. Here's our wishbone. Here's our 2 chicken wings. Plating of this couldn't be any easier. Let's start with the greens. In this case, I'm using arugula. We're gonna make a bed on the plate. Okay. Next up, I'm going to put some chicken on here. As you can see, we put a nice color on here. This is our rotisserie chicken. We just did a fast secondary cooking, and what this does will actually warm it up for your dinner and then actually leave a great texture on a lot of this. I'm going to make one here with the breast meat. And make sure to add some of that good dark meat in there too. As you can see, we have enough food here to cook for 4. That's some of this great asparagus that we made on top. Now we take our amazing white wine sauce that we made. We're going to spoon this right on top of that stuff. Now, these go right on top of there. There we go. This is our arugula with a broken lemon shallot dressing, rotisserie chicken, sauteed asparagus, white wine cream sauce, and crispy chicken skin. Bon appetit. This will be good. Maybe arugula. Shallots, I go for the firm ones. Everybody likes firm shallots. Use 5 shallots for half a bottle of wine. Oh, look, vegetarian chicken. This chicken was a vegetarian, and then it turned into meat.
What?
Yeah, look at that. I guess they should be eating corn and not other chicken. You get bad chicken disease. Alright, let's go find some white wine. To me, the secret for cooking wine is trying to find the cheapest bottle you can find with the right grade. One of the things I keep in mind when I'm picking out my wine for whatever cooking I'm doing is I want to keep it more on the dry side. I definitely try to stay away from the Chardonnays, any of the dessert wines, anything that's buttery. Pinot Grigios actually probably work the best. The Sauvignon Blancs work well. And I try to keep my bottle around $5, $6. Whoa, here we go. Dancing Bull. $6.66 for a single bottle. That looks perfect. We have different options here. This is going to be some of the veg stock we add to our cream sauce. You can use chicken, you can use beef for the veg stock. Just a better flavor all around. Anything organic, and the low sodium is also good. There's quite the reduction on this, and I like to add my own salts.
Yeah.
Did you check with the store director?
I did not.
You need to.
No, it's okay. We'll be done. We're done. You don't have to film anything. I think it's our entourage and our huge film crew that threw him off.
Yeah, look at our crew.
This is the producer back there on the phone as usual, you know.